Hi everybody, I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples of analysis techniques in Excel using a couple of different types of tools just as an introduction, but they'll also help you on your assignment for this week. We will build on these over the course of the semester, so a lot of what I'll show you today will just start to expand as we continue. First thing first, let's talk about the data. These are COVID cases in Georgia from the beginning of the pandemic on through about January 24th. I've put the source of the data here as well in case you want to go out and explore. For now, I'm just going to move that over here. The first thing I want to know is I want to calculate the number of new cases each day of the pandemic. So I'm just going to call this column new cases. And I'm going to start on the second day, March 3rd, and calculate the difference between this day and March 2nd. And then I'm going to drag that formula all the way down to calculate the daily number of cases change for each day of this process. The way we do that is using a function or creating a function in Excel, and almost all functions in Excel start with the equal sign. You can also create functions with just the minus sign as well, but generally we start with equal, and then we select the cell that we want to subtract from. And so that would be column B, row 3, and then we'll put a minus sign because we want to subtract B3 from B2 or March 3rd from March 2nd. So now you can read it as March 3rd minus March 2nd, the number of cases equals enter and 0. So there's no difference in the number of cases, but as you hover over the bottom right corner, you'll notice it turns into a crosshair, and you can just drag that down, and you'll see that it will move the formula down each cell to subtract from the day before it. So you can click and drag all the way down, or you can just double click the little bottom right corner, and Excel will move the formula all the way down the page for you. So now we've got the number of new cases each day for the pandemic. What I also want to do now is calculate the mean, median, and mode. I'm going to do the median and the mode over here in a function. We're going to do the average in a different way in the pivot table just to give you an example. So what I want to do for the median is just type median, identify it for us in mode, and then create another function using the equal sign again, but this time we're going to call up a specific function for median, and that's just from typing median in. And so if you can either type median and hit parentheses or just double click median, and then you'll select all the values that you want to calculate the median for. And so you hold down the mouse and just drag it all the way down until we get to the end, and hit enter. And you'll see that the median has been calculated at 1,724 cases. Now let's do the same thing for the mode. So we'll do equal again, MOD, and I want to pick the mode.single value function because that's the one that returns the most frequently occurring value in any array of data. So double click it, and then select our data again for new cases. We hit enter. And it tells us that the mode is actually 0. We can see right here that there are a couple of days where there are no change in cases. That may be the reason why there's so much variability between days that we want to make sure that basically the mode is 0 because it's the only figure that's been shown more than 2 or 3 times. So now we have the median and the mode. Next, what I want to do is use the data analysis toolpack to calculate a 7-day average for the number of new cases. And the way this works is you go to File and Options, and then under Add-ins on the left, you select Go for the Excel add-ins. And you'll want to make sure that the Data Analysis toolpack, the very top option, Data Analysis toolpack, is selected and hit OK. Then you'll go to the Data tab at the top and select Data Analysis. And there's a lot of different options here. ANOVA, descriptive statistics, exponential smoothing, histograms, regression, all this stuff. What we want is a moving average. So we'll select moving average, hit OK. And the first thing we need to do is tell it what data we want to get a moving average for, and that is the new cases. So we'll select all of our new case data. And then it asks us, what's the interval? Do we want a 3-day moving average, a 10-day moving average? We want a 7-day moving average, so we're just going to type 7. And that's going to average the values for each of the previous 7 iterations. And then we have to tell it where we want to put the 7-day average results. So we'll click this little button to minimize, go back up, and select the column beside it, just the cells that are right beside our current data, and then expand it again, and then hit OK. And the data analysis tool pack will calculate the 7-day moving average for each 7-day period. And so what this is really doing is it's saying, okay, 0, 0, 0, 1, 4, 4, what's the average of those? And it's 2.14. Well, let's come on down. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 6-day. Let's go to 7. And it tells us that, you know, six days is 2.14 on average across those 7 days. So what we want to do is we want to delete the not applicable function results because we can't calculate a 7-day average on 6 days or less of data. So we'll delete that. And I'm just going to clean it up a little bit by making it a single number value, and then move it down to 1 decimal place by clicking on the number formatting. There we go, 1 decimal place now. There we go. So I've centered it just to make it look like the other. And now we have number of cases, number of new cases per day, and then the 7-day average number of cases, new cases rather, median and mode. So we've done a lot in just a couple of minutes on this one spreadsheet. Now what I want to do is I want to show you how to use a pivot table. If you click anywhere in this array of data and go to insert and then pivot table, it will basically put little ant marks, like ants marching, kind of all the way around it, because it recognizes this is one continuous array of data. So we're going to say, okay, that is the data we want to create a table from. And it allows us to basically, essentially pivot the data. So we can put date in the rows, and it will organize the date because it recognizes it as an actual date. It'll organize it by year, quarters, and then the date. We don't need it by quarters, but what we do want to do is expand the years to show us the months, because I want to know the average number of new cases per month and the total number of new cases per month. So now that we've got our months shown over here in the pivot table itself, I want to come back over to the fields and move new cases into the value section. And it's going to automatically show us a count of new cases. Well, that's not what we want. So we're going to click on value field settings, and we're going to change that to a sum. So we know the total number of new cases each month. There we go. So September, we saw a big dip in new cases from about 83,000 to 47,000, and then back up again in October, and then steadily increasing since then. Well, let's look at the average. All you have to do is drag the new cases field down again into the values, and this time change the value field settings to average. Hit OK. And I would format this just to make it all same. So let's just put 1 decimal point there. So on average, the number of new cases in the month of March was 142. Average number of cases in our low month of September was only 1,574 compared to over 2,000 for the preceding and month after it. All right, so now we've got a way of calculating averages right here in the pivot table, as well as calculating sums and grouping data in certain ways. Going back over to our table, now what I want to do is I want to create a chart. I want to create a scatter plot. I want to plot the data for new cases and the 7-day moving average to see how much variation there are in our data. So the first thing I want to do is just click anywhere in our field again, go to Insert, and under the Chart section, you'll see this option for Scatter Plot. And then the first option on the top left is your typical scatter plot without any kind of connecting lines. And that's what we want. We just want a regular old scatter plot. Well, when you click on it, you may notice that Excel automatically puts the dates on the horizontal axis and highlights it in purple. And then it chooses to put the cases and new cases and 7-day average all as fields. So we have each of those fields here in a different color. Well, the number of cases is growing at such an exponential rate that it dwarfs everything below it, the number of daily new cases and the 7-day average. So all I want to do is actually just click on that blue line or blue array of dots and then press delete on my screen, on my keyboard. And so that gets rid of it. I don't need the number of new cases. It's good to know the total and how fast it's growing, but what I want to look at here is the daily number of new cases and the 7-day average. So I'm going to click the chart title as well and delete it. And then I'm going to right click on the chart and say, just move it to a new sheet so I can see it a little bit easier. And voila, here it is. So our new chart now shows us each day the number of new cases in orange, but it also shows us a very smooth moving average of a 7-day moving average. That helps us understand kind of the overall trajectory over a week for each of these data points. So it helps us understand that every so often we're going to see spikes, right? So here we go. On 11/17, we saw a big jump. On 11/21, about 4 days later, another big jump. We tend to see this kind of, I call it seasonal variation, even though it's just a couple of days. But here we go, from 12/4 to 12/10. That's almost a week. Oftentimes we see clinics, hospitals reporting the lag if it falls on the weekend or things like that, or primary care physicians that are testing not being open on the weekends. So sometimes we'll see Mondays or other days be really high or a lot higher than other days. So when we use a moving average, it allows us to smooth that out a little bit. So there we go. That's our chart. There's all of our data we've analyzed and pivot tables. Feel free to keep playing around with this. Work with it, get to know it, look up more Excel functions. We're going to use quite a few, as well as use the data analysis tool pack in this class. And let me know if you have any questions about the assignment. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'll talk to you soon.